Hello and welcome to today's video. I'm really excited to be here. I'm really excited to be sharing this knowledge, and I'm even more excited that the first project on this channel is finally here. So yeah, no long stories, let's get into it. So the research objective is to understand the YouTube landscape, yeah. But please note, I'm going to break this video into two. So part one is going to cover data cleaning, and part two is going to cover data exploration. Yeah, so more about what is data exploration. I'll probably talk a bit about the difference between data exploration and exploratory data analysis in part two, though that's not the aim. Like the aim is to do like data exploration, yeah. So yeah, the research objective is to understand the YouTube landscape, but for this particular video, like the data cleaning parts, the research objective might not really be that relevant, but it's just good to keep the research objective at the back of your mind. So as you're cleaning, you know, okay, this is a very important feature. What should I do with it in case it's really dirty, really messy, among other things. So yeah, so that's a research objective to understand the YouTube landscape. We're going to be answering a number of questions that I'll briefly get into as we continue. And then the next thing is I'm going to tell you a bit more about the data set. So it's the global YouTube statistics, and I got it from Kaggle, and I've linked it. Okay, so yeah, I got it from Kaggle. And I'm going to link this notebook down below for anyone who's interested in the code. Eventually, we'll start pushing this to GitHub, and you'll be able to access all this on GitHub. So yeah, ideally, I would have put like the steps taken during this project, but because for this particular analysis, we're only going to cover data wrangling and data exploration. Let me just get into data wrangling. So we're going to do data wrangling, yeah? What is data wrangling? What are the steps involved in data wrangling? So data wrangling is just basically sourcing your data. Actually, it involves sourcing your data. After you get your data, you need to assess the data. How messy is it? How tidy is it? In case there's some aspects of untidiness, some aspects of the data being messy. Now the assessment will let you know, then you can finally clean the data. And as I had already mentioned, we're going to do some exploring of the data, but in part two of the video. So yeah, so let's get started. So for those who are not familiar, okay, for those who are not familiar with Colab, my first ever video on like the Python tutorial series, like introduction to Python for data analysis and data science. I talked a bit about Google Colab, but yeah, you should get the hang of it. Plus, you can always go and look for a tutorial to take you through this interface, but you should get the hang of it. So yeah, just click this file-looking icon, then click on this. So you'll have to navigate to where the data set is. So I'm just loading this data set into our environment, yeah. And there are several ways that you could load your data into this environment. You could like actually upload it onto the environment, or you could access it using a link. So I decided to load it onto this environment maybe one day, or you could go in Google. You can look at the different ways to load your CSV, Excel, or whatever file format you have onto your environment. So now that we've loaded it, let's first import. We need to import relevant libraries. Importing libraries that we need, yeah. So what do we need for this analysis? So I'm going to import the typical libraries that I always use whenever I am doing a data analysis project. So for this particular analysis, especially the data cleaning part, we might not use all of them, but I might as well just import them once and for all. So we're going to import NumPy as NP. We're going to import pandas as PD, we're going to import. Okay, no, I'll talk about them after I'm done. Import Seaborn as SNS. We're going to import matplotlib as matplotlib.pyplot. There you go. Okay, so pandas, numpy are very popular data analysis, data science libraries. So I'm going to create separate tutorials to really take a deep dive on what is numpy, what is pandas, what do they do, but they are very powerful tools for data manipulation. So Seaborn and matplotlib are also very popular, and they are known for data visualization. So yeah, so Seaborn, matplotlib, will mostly use it on part 2 when we are covering data visualization. For part 1, we're going to use, for data cleaning, we're going to use a lot of pandas and just generic Python inbuilt functions. So now that we've listed all the libraries that we are interested in, Control Enter will help you run the cell. And yeah, once it runs, that means now we have NumPy, and it's now, think of this like an alias for those who are familiar with SQL. So instead of whenever you want to call something in NumPy or pandas, you don't have to write the whole pandas. You'll be like PD, like panda, give me this. So you'll see what I'm talking about later on. So the next thing we're going to do is load our data. Okay, so then again, best practice, it's very important to comment on your code. I'll do this project now. Someone else will want to learn from it. If I just write code and I'm not explaining what I'm doing, it will make my project not very useful, no matter how good it is. So for the sake of others and for the sake of yourself, because sometimes you could be doing even very complex work, and not even necessarily complex work. Like if you're coming back to your work like a year later, 2 years later, you might have forgotten the logic you applied on it. So it's very important to always put comments. And whenever you're putting comments in Python, you start with a hash, and yeah, it comments out. So when the code is, when you're running your cell, it will skip whatever you've commented and just run everything else that is not commented. So this is the first interaction with pandas in this project. So we are going to name our data DF, standing for data frame, and because standing for data frame, so we're going to do PD dot read CSV. So PD meaning pandas, read CSV, yeah, and we need to get the exact name of the CSV, and we paste it there. So let's copy, let's copy this. Okay, I think I just have to, then do control copy. Dot CSV, encoding, equal, want it to be Windows 1, 2, 5, 4. Okay. And you run your cell. So there you go. You have your data frame loaded. So note, sometimes pt.read CSV would just be enough. You don't really need to do the encoding. And yeah, I challenge you to, go out there, Google, and try and figure out why am I encoding with Windows 1, 2, 5, 4. If you figure it out, please put it down in the comment below. For part 2, I will explain this. So I'm just trying to make this interactive, yeah. So yeah, so now that we have the libraries we need, and we have our data loaded onto the environment, now let's go to assessing, then we'll clean our data. So what is assessing of data? So at this point, we have no idea what is in our data. The only thing we know about our data is it's a CSV and it's titled Global YouTube Statistics.csv. So now assessing our data will first of all help us understand what exactly is in our data. And then secondly, it will also help us assess how tidy or not tidy, how messy or not messy our data is. So the first thing I like to, okay, first of all, before I even start, so this is a tutorial meant for beginners. Probably the second, third project will be a bit more advanced. So I'm going to do a lot of repetition, like things that I could easily put in a loop or create a function so I don't have to rewrite that chunk of code. I'm going to rewrite. You're going to see a lot of repetition, and this is very intentional because I really want people to grasp how these various codes and inbuilt functions work. Honestly, for me, when I was still learning, if someone just threw a whole function at me and the function is carrying like maybe 6 or 7 different inbuilt functions, inbuilt functions are, I don't even know what to say. So for the sake of repetition, key to learning is practice, practice, repetition, repetition. So I'm really trying to embody that practice, practice, repetition, repetition here so we all get the hang of it. So yeah, the first thing we're going to do is we want to preview the head of our data set and the tail. So that's the top and the bottom of our data set. Why is this helpful? Let's preview and then I'll answer the question of why is it helpful. So top of the data set, and then we're going to do bottom of the data set, yeah, and then we can add a few more for the next steps here. So to do this, remember we had named our data set df, so it will be df dot head, and then control enter. And there you go. So note this means that our data set is bigger than this, but for the purposes of viewing, Python didn't allow us to see all of them. It just showed us a couple of the first columns and a couple of the last columns. So you can see we have rank, YouTuber, subscribers, video views, category, etc, etc. We have urban population, latitude, longitude, and yeah, you can just get a feel of what does the data look like. Oh, category, there's music, there's education, title, the YouTuber Cocomelon. And yeah, Cocomelon, it's everywhere. Yeah, so the top just gives you a feel of how the data looks. And then it can also give you, like you can, okay, so to me, my first instinct is this data is not very untidy because their data sets are previewed, and just from the top of the data you can see a few missing values, but so far I'm not seeing any missing values. So let's also preview the tail of the data. And most of the time, like with the data sets I have worked with, the top tends to be quite clean, and then the tail is where you see a good number of missing values. And it's same here, like the data set tends to be kind of tidy. But then again, this is just me scanning with my eyes, not a very good way to assess the tidiness / messiness of your data. We're going to use more like programming methods to truly be sure that our data is clean, or if it's not clean, how much cleaning does it need? And then this is also a very good step to start thinking about, okay, so the research objective is understanding the YouTube landscape. Like, what about the YouTube landscape do you want to understand? Probably one question you could answer is, who are the top YouTubers? What is the relationship between subscribers and uploads? So people who have a high number of subscribers, do they also upload more? You'd want to know, oh, the top YouTubers tend to come from which country, which categories perform really well. And okay, so one of the reasons I actually picked this data set is because, okay, I'm also very new to YouTube. So this would be really nice for me to just get a handle of, okay, what's out there, what works. answering the questions of, okay, there's always, I think, for consistency. So people who are consistent, people who upload, have more uploads within a certain span, do their subscriber count actually, does it actually grow? Do their video views actually grow? So yeah, so understanding the YouTube landscape, this could be useful to people like me who are new to YouTube, probably even old YouTubers who just want to understand, okay, what's going on out there? Am I part of certain statistics? What is working? What can I learn from the people who are working, who quote unquote doing well, whatever the definition of doing well is. If I'm considering to start like a second or third YouTube channel and I'm torn between entertainment, music, and games, what's out there, you know. So this can be very good information for someone who's already in YouTube or looking to get into YouTube. And yeah, so those, like all I've just mentioned, we're going to cover that more in the part 2, which will now cover exploring the data. So yeah, so let's continue assessing our data. So what other things can we do during the assessment? So I'm going to introduce you to 3 inbuilt functions. So that's shape, information, and describe. So let's start with shape. So checking on the shape of the data. Yeah, so it's going to be df, that's what we've named our data, dot shape. Yeah, so the shape basically just tells us how many rows and how many columns do we have in our data. So the data has 995 rows and 29 columns. So our columns could also be called our variables. If you hear me talking about a data point, that is also equivalent to a row. Yeah, so variables, columns, rows, data points, and yeah, there are so many, there are other synonyms to column, to rows, and yeah, for those of you who don't follow me on LinkedIn, please feel free to go and follow me. My name is Stacey Somewhere across all platforms, which for now is just YouTube and LinkedIn, and like such things uncover, you know, like I'd randomly be like, oh yeah, when someone is talking about a data point, what do they mean? It's just a row. When someone is talking about a variable, what do they mean? It's just a column. Why do you call it a variable and whatnot? So some of these small things, I talk more about them on LinkedIn. So they're small, but they're very important. Yeah, you probably know the answer, but you just don't know the synonym. So yeah, come on this journey with me through both my YouTube and my LinkedIn. So yeah, let's continue. So the shape just tells you how many rows we have, how many columns we have. For me, why is this important? It just gives me, first of all, a picture of, okay, so that's how small or how big my data is. Secondly, in case I identify any data cleaning issues that might need me to consider dropping some, let's say, missing values, it helps me understand the magnitude. So if a certain, let's say, column only has like 5 missing values and I drop that, yeah, a certain column, yeah, has 5 missing values. That's 5 rows that probably don't have data. Yeah, so if I decide to drop those missing values, at least I know I'm only losing 5 rows. Yeah, so how, okay, no, I'll explain that when we get there. So yeah, so that's why for me this is very important. Yeah, so I also talked about info checking. So let's just say info. Yeah, so df dot info. So this is also another inbuilt function, info. And what does info do? So as you can see, it's also telling us we have 995 entries, and it's telling us we have 28 columns. So now info is listing for us all the columns, as you can see there, 28. So 27 plus 1. So Python indexing, the first element on the list of items only starts with a 0. So 27 plus 1 because of the 0.8. So you can see we have 28. And now it's telling us who are all these columns that we have. And it's also giving us the data type. For me, this is what I mostly look at. But as you can see, it's also giving us a hint of where missing values are, because why is this not 995. Why is this not 995? This one is complete, no missing values, but it's also giving us the data type. So we can quickly scan through this. We have rank, which is an integer, which is okay. YouTuber, which is probably the YouTuber's name, which is an object, which is okay. So for guys who are not familiar with Python data type, I think it was a second video in my Python tutorial. So I covered various data types, but not all data types, but you can go and check it out. At least I covered an object is similar to a string. So I covered string / object. I covered, but I call it string there. So I covered integer, I covered float, and then I also covered Boolean. So yeah, if you're not familiar with what I'm talking about, you can pause this video, go and watch, or quickly Google. Then let's continue, or let's also continue, because it's not really like for this point in the video. I'm not going to do any manipulation of data types as at now, so we can quickly scan through it here together. So YouTuber, object, subscriber, integer, video views, so this ones are okay. This one is an object, title, object, which is okay, uploads, integer. So yeah, so what you can do is just scan through this and see, do they all make sense? So if you see here, like year created, month created, date created, is float, object, float, and these are supposed to be date type, yeah? So for sure, when we're doing our data cleaning, this is one of the things that we need to do. So just note that somewhere, yeah. So I can actually start. So let's note it. So we're like, change date columns to date type. Yeah. So yeah, that is one thing we've identified during assessment that we need to clean. And that's why I was like, eyeballing is not really the best way to assess how messy or not messy, or how clean or not clean your data is. Using programmatic methods is more efficient. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, there we do a little bit about our data. So the next thing we can do is df dot describe. So this is another inbuilt function, describe. And what it does is it just gives us a summary of the data. So it can help us understand like what's going on. So like rank. So the count, there are 995. The mean is 498. Standard deviation is 287. The lowest rank is 1. The highest rank is 95. The 25th, 50th, and 75th percentile. Let's see. And note, this will automatically only pick columns that are type integer. So like here, for example, mean on average, this whole sample that we're dealing with, upload up to 9,187 uploads. I have no idea in what period, in what span of time. That is something we can probably, look into during the exploration of the data. So yeah, so this just gives you an idea of what's going on. Also a very good thing to keep at the back of your mind as you're doing your data cleaning. Yeah, and as you're thinking through, okay, I'm cleaning my data, I'm getting more familiar with my data, like what additional exploratory activities can I do now that I have an idea of, okay, what's going on? Yeah, what is my data depicting? So now we've looked at info, we've looked at describe, and we've looked at shape, and we've learned something more about the data. So the next thing we're going to look at is, I want us to check if, does our data have any duplicates? Does our data have any missing values? So the first thing is checking for duplicates. So how do you check for duplicates? Again, an inbuilt function, df dot duplicated dot sum. So what this will do is it will check if there are any duplicates and count all of them. So if we had 5 data points that are duplicated, it would count. But as you can see, we have no duplicates. Yeah. So why is it important to get rid of duplicates? It will exaggerate your data. Like if Stacy Samoe, the YouTuber, exists and she had 500 uploads, why should she exist twice? So when you're doing some form of aggregation, that 500 will be double counted. And yeah, that's misinformation. It was not 1,000, it was just 500. So that's why it's very important to check for duplicates and get rid of them so that you don't overrepresent. And if you get to the point of probably doing some modeling and trying to do some predictions, now your model will be wrong. It will be to some extent useless because it will be predicting wrong things, and that can be it can be a disaster. Even just at the level of like doing some descriptive analysis and presenting your bar chart, line graph, showing, oh yeah, at this point in time this happened, this is how much we did. So someone could make a decision, whether it's senior leadership or managers at the tactical level, based on the data you've given them, and probably invest a lot of time, money, resources on it, yet the data was wrong. You see how it can be a crazy mess. So yeah, you really need to be keen with like the data cleaning step. And then on that note, oh yeah, we've not started data cleaning, but I was about to be like, for this project, like this is very simple, very basic. In real life, data cleaning is not as straightforward as, oh, drop it, replace the missing values with mode, mean, among other things. You really need to understand the business process and make sure that the data cleaning steps you're taking are aligned with the business process. Sometimes you might actually have to go to the extent of actually looking for that data and putting it in, because this is a project to just showcase, like, oh, I have an understanding of this, yeah. But when you go to real life data, it's a whole other story. But we'll talk more about that when we actually start cleaning. So let's continue. The next thing we're going to do is checking for missing values. So I'm going to be checking for missing values per column. Yeah. So df dot is null dot sum. Okay, so now the other thing is, let me tell you something. It is okay to Google. I have been building projects for the longest time ever. Like I decided to transition. Should I say I started the transition formally? The reason why I'm saying formally, we'll have our story time and I'll tell you more about how I got into data towards the end of 2020. Actually, I started towards the end of May 2020. So I've been building projects. No, okay, I didn't start building projects in May, but just I started building projects sometime in 2020. So that's 2020, 2021. And then I became a data analyst in 2022. Yeah, I became a data analyst in 2022. Though in my previous jobs, I didn't have the title data analyst, but I was still working with data a lot, but on Excel. But I started working with like SQL and a bit of Python, not everything that, okay, not everything, like in terms of data cleaning, data manipulation, feature engineering, like SQL is just as powerful, yeah? So at my current job, I work way more, like I'd say 85%, 90% of the time I'm on SQL, doing what I'm doing, what I'm showing you now on SQL. So for me, some of these things have stuck in my head because of years and years and years of practice. And it's because some of these functions I use almost every day. But there are some I use, but I don't use every day. And I always go back to Google. So yeah, don't look at me here just typing and things are flowing and think that it's supposed to be like that. No. Google, it's okay to go on Google and be like, how do I check for missing values in my data using Python, using pandas? You can go on Google, you can go on ChatGPT. I won't talk much about ChatGPT because I don't use it as much yet. I still kind of use Google a lot because I have all this like I have my websites that I know give me quality answers. So I'm usually quick to be like, oh, how to do this in SQL, mode analytics, geeks on geeks, etc. But yeah, so here we are. So as you can see, the first 4 columns, no missing values. Category has 47 missing values. This is country 126, abbreviation 126, channel type 122, sorry, channel type is missing, 30 data points, and so on and so forth. Yeah. So I've thought through some of the questions I want to answer. And one thing I can tell you for sure is I'm not going to use this the last 6 columns. I'm not going to use them. So something else I can also note is drop the last 6 columns because I'm not going to use them. Like, as much as yes, I'm only sharing part 1 first, I know for sure I'm not going to use, like I know the questions that I'm going to answer, and the last 6 columns are not relevant for me. So if we are to look at like category, country, abbreviation, channel type, this is kind of a lot, especially country. If I decide to let's say drop these columns, yeah, then I'm left with the remaining missing values, and I'm like, okay, if I decide to drop this missing values, what will happen is, even here in uploads where, so for this specific row, they put in, so there's a row that they put in the uploads, but they didn't put the country and they didn't put the abbreviation, and that's happening 122 times. So if I decide to delete all missing values, it's going to reduce my data from 995 minus 122. So you see why I was telling you it's very important to know the shape of the data, because by the time you just come here and you're like, oh, let's drop all missing values, and then we drop 337 from this column, that means it's going to be 995 minus 337. And the smaller the sample, like, okay, at this, again, the purposes of this video is to just learn these concepts. Let's not get into samples, but you don't want to over reduce the size of your data, because that is almost a quarter of your data if you drop 337. And that means that's significant in my opinion. So that's a quarter of behaviors, a quarter of characteristics that you've gotten rid of it. So even when you do your visualization and you're communicating something less quarter of your data set. You get? But yeah, I hope you get what I mean. Like, it's like we are 4 girls here, yeah? Me, I'm tomboyish. Another girl is like Barbie-ish. Someone else is those are not good examples. Okay, let's just continue. I'm a tomboy. There's a Barbie. There's a sportish one, and there is a geek. Yeah. So if you delete if coincidentally this 337 happens to be the geek, yeah, and now you're only left with the Barbie one, the tomboy, and the sporty one, you see how you've eliminated a whole segment of your data set. And that means when you're making decisions, you're only making decisions around 3 types of people, yet you probably serve 4 types of people. And what if coincidentally those people actually do bring in a significant chunk of your revenue? So yeah, I really hope you've gotten what I mean by you really have to be careful with your data, with data cleaning. Even at just this level of, the point of this is to just learn these concepts, but not really get into the nitty-gritties of statistics. It's still very important, because I remember when I went for my interview, I went for an interview for a role that I actually ended up getting an offer. And one of the questions I was asked is, why did you do that with the missing data? You need to have some logic behind it. And then that's the other thing, like just another side note, like there's a good number of hiring managers always tell me this. We can teach you SQL, we can teach you Python. Of course, come in with your basics. Let me not say don't come here with 0, because I have been part of a hiring team for like junior analysts, and we literally wanted them to have like the bare minimum. You know, we were more interested in the thinking process, like how logical are you? That's why I'm like, really be intentional about everything you do here. So if you're going for an interview and you're presenting your project and they ask you, why did you drop them? Why did you do this? Why did you do that? Can you explain? And that's why I've taken time to just pause and explain all this to you. But yes, so what am I going to do? For the categorical variables, so like the category, country, abbreviation, channel type, I'm going to replace them with not available. So even as we view, maybe we do a bar chart and want to see where a count of channel types, we'll see 30 that are not there. But this 30, we still have the information on uploads and we have the information on the number of subscribers. So when you're looking at the relationship of uploads versus subscribers, we can still benefit from that data point. So I hope we are all on the same page. So I'm going to drop this. Again, for the questions that I'm going to answer, I don't need subscribers for the last 30 days, video views for the last 30 days. I'm also going to drop that. And then I'm going to replace the bigger ones like abbreviation or not channel, like country, rank, and channel type. I'm going to replace with mode. So the most occurring data points in that column. So let's say if a rank of 100 is the most occurring, so I'll replace all the missing values with 100. It shouldn't skew our data too much, but the whole point again is to just show you guys the various options that you have. And yes, so yeah, let's get to cleaning. Yeah, let's get to cleaning. Okay, we can continue. So what I did to save on time was just I paused, quickly wrote out the steps we're going to take so that I don't waste time on typing one by one. And yeah, we can get into the cleaning. So there were a few data cleaning issues we had identified, and the first thing is was the columns that I know I'm not going to use, one of the variables that I know I'm not going to use. So the first thing we are going to do is drop these variables that we are not going to use. So I've listed them. I've listed them there, yeah, as you can see. So they were the last 4 columns, and then a few more subscribers for the last 30 days and video views for the last 30 days. So df dot drop open brackets, open square brackets. So inside the square brackets, we are going to put a list of every column, a list that contains all the columns that we want to drop, and we want access equals to 1 in place equals to true. So yeah, the next thing we're going to do is to copy paste this, which is just a list of all the columns that we are not interested in. So control copy, put them there. And yeah, let's run and see what happens here. So that means all the columns that we listed here, subscribers for the last 30 days, longitude, latitude, unemployment rate, gross, tertiary, education enrollment percent have all been dropped. The next thing we want to do is want to replace some missing values with not available. So for this particular ones, this, like as I'd explained before, we don't want to drop all of them, because if we drop it, will affect the size of our data, and hence it might interfere with the insights we see. So we're going to just replace it with not available. So same thing, df, yeah, square brackets, square brackets. So inside this, okay, let me just finish it, and then df, square brackets, dot, and then outside, dot, fill, now, open brackets, open parenthesis. So here, so this is basically our results, yeah? So we need to put here the list of the columns that have missing values, so that anything that, like if it goes through a certain column and there are missing values, it will replace it with whatever we put here. And we chose not available, yeah? So we have country, channel type, and category, yeah? So any missing values in these columns will be replaced with not available. And now this is the new result. So this not available still has missing values. After it's been replaced, now it's still called category, but no missing values in here. You get, so it will run through category, any missing values will replace with not available. And now this category here has no missing values, and it will continue like that. So yeah, let's run that. And then the next thing is, so we still have a few more, those channel, type rank, and video views for the last 30 days. So I'm not going to use this, but it's okay. I'll just, for purposes of showing how this works. So channel type rank and video views for the last 30 days. So if you remember, both of these were integers, and how you treat a categorical variable and how you treat an integer data type is very different from how you treat like categorizing an integer. It doesn't make sense for me to take this integer, data type integer variable, and replace it with not available. It does not make sense. Like it's not even compatible. You'll probably get an error because it's not compatible. So for this ones, I'm going to replace them with mode, and mode is just the data point that appears the most in channel type rank and video views for the last 30 days. And as I'd already mentioned earlier, like really think through what you decide to do in terms of data cleaning, especially if this is a project that you plan to use for like during your job search. The logic behind it really matters, yeah? Most of the time, interviewers just want to test your, critical thinking, because as I said, we can teach you, we can teach you how to code, but teaching someone like the logical, like it's I don't know how to explain it. Just know we can teach you how to code. On the other side, your business acumen, your soft skills, and your soft skills include critical thinking, is something that you just need to acquire by yourself over time. Yeah. And this is a good way to put it to the test and, grow it. Yeah. So yeah, let's get into it. So again, this will be the final result. So we'll put here the column we are interested in. So if now what we are going to do is we are going to replace it with df, the mode of that column. And I already explained what mode is, yeah. Again, it is okay to Google these things. Where are my square brackets? Okay. So what I'm interested in here. We are interested in video views. Video views in the last 30 days. I need my call. So that will be the new one. So video views is now, we replace it with the mode. And I'm just like, was it really channel type rank? Let's check this. Channel type rank videos, and also the country rank. Let me copy this country rank. We'll sort out country rank, then preview it again. Preview like our missing data and see what we've done so far. So yeah, we can copy this again. But this time, instead of video, we're going to replace it with country rank. Country rank. Country rank. We're going to replace it with country rank, and this is supposed to be a square bracket. Remember, Google is your friend. Okay, so let's recheck missing values, because honestly, even me, I've kind of lost track. So df, actually, instead of copying or typing it again, you can just do this. So that's okay. So as you can see, channel type rank is also supposed to be here. We don't want to drop those. So why I'm doing this is because it's already cleaned it. So if I rerun those two, it will give me an error. So now we're just taking the channel type rank and we're replacing it with the mode also. We've replaced it. Now we can uncomment this, then you can rerun this, and as you can see, our data is pretty clean. So it's just created year, created month, created date, and video views rank that are missing. So that one, I can just drop all of them. And now what will happen is we're going to lose five or six columns. So if coincidentally the same row that has this one missing also has this created year missing, then we'll lose 5. But if this where video views rank is missing, sorry about that, is the year created, month created, date created is full, that as in there's no missing value, that's what I mean by it's full, then we're going to lose 6. So 6 rows, because what this happens is this is a column, yeah, but this is just a column, part of a whole row. So if our data point in a column is missing, the whole row is deleted, not just the data point, yeah? So we're going to drop the remaining missing values. And why I've decided to drop these remaining missing values, it's just to show you how to drop the remaining missing values. You could have easily replaced them with like median or mode, but they're so small, they won't skew our data anyway. And then note, there are more complex ways of data cleaning. Like you can actually use machine learning. Like you can use concepts such as clustering, classification, or regression to, instead of just picking median or mode, which also has its disadvantages, you can use like, let me say like clustering. You know how clustering, you give it a data set, then it groups data set based on similarities of characteristics. So if someone had a missing data point, let's say if you're using k-means is a clustering, yeah, if you're using k-means, it will cluster, and then that data point whoever it's closest to. If it's close to cluster A or cluster B or cluster C, the missing value will be replaced with something close to that. So maybe I should do that. Like I should do like a more advanced, I'll have a more advanced data cleaning. Ooh, a video idea. But yeah, so how to drop it, df dot dot drop in place equals true. So yeah, so this is just the name of our data frame, and we are dropping. Dot drop now. Yeah. So need to specify at least one of the labels. There you go. It's dropped it. So now remember, there's another thing we also identified. So it was created year, created month, and created date. And they were in two are in float and it was in integer. So when we're doing our data analysis and want to do our time series, we won't be able to because the date columns are in the wrong data type. So year is just like 2020, month is just like the month, but created date will cover both year, month, and the actual day. So I'm only going to convert created date because that's what we might use going forward. I will not use created at year, created at month, so I'm not going to convert it. So how do you convert? So this is what is it called? It's pandas function that's going to help us do this. So df, the name of our data. So we can just copy paste this created date, control copy created date, and we want it to be PD, which is pandas to date time. Yeah, it is to date time. Then we need to put df, so that's the data frame. But from the data frame we are speaking created. Let me just copy paste because it's this. So we are picking this column from the data frame, and that's what we want to convert to date time data type. And voila. So yeah, so just to confirm if our changes worked, let's look at the shape of our data frame. So df dot shape. Yeah, we have 990 and 21, 990 rows, 21 columns, meaning we lost 7 columns, which are the ones we dropped, and we lost, I think, 6. We lost 6. Where's our shape? We lost 5, yeah. We lost 5 rows, which is not too bad. And then let's recheck our missing values. Again, I'm just going to reuse this code. So there, no missing values. And then df dot info. The main thing here is to check the created at date is now date type. And yeah, that's it for our data cleaning. Maybe the only thing I can say is like the order in which Python runs things. And that's why like when I run these missing values here, it's 0 because when I ran it before, we had not done any data cleaning. So we did some data cleaning here, then I ran it again. Now there is nothing. So if you go through my Python tutorials, honestly, I'm not sure which one specifically, but in a bunch of them, I do talk about how Python runs things, like the order of running, like lines of code. And in case you're totally new to like programming, you're totally new to Python, honestly, I don't ignore those simple things because they really confused me when I first started. But yeah, I'd urge you to go and watch the whole tutorial, and you'll understand what's going on here. And yeah, that's it. Now maybe we can just, so like previewing our columns, you can just like the initial steps I'd take before I start to explore the data. Number one, I really want to see like, okay, what columns do I have? What am I working with? Yeah. But before that, I want to create a copy. Yeah. So I want to create a copy and further manipulate the copy. So in case I'm like, no, I don't want that and I need to start again, I don't need to start like you can easily just go to your clean data set and start from there. You don't have to rerun all the cells to recreate where you started from. So it's always good practice to create like a copy. So df.clean will be df.copy. And now going forward for the data cleaning, we're going to be using df.clean. So the df will stay there. It's our clean data set. Anytime you want to refer to it, you want to download it, you want to do what, you go to it. So I like to just get a sense of, oh, okay, I've done all this data cleaning. Maybe my mind is exhausted. I probably took a break. Now I'm back, which is what is going to happen. What columns am I working with? It's df_clean. What columns am I working with? No, it's columns. Data frame object has no attribute column. Yeah, so it's columns. Yeah, so that's what I'm working with. And yeah, now maybe to just introduce you guys to Introduction to Data Visualization, because now the title of this project is going to have data analysis, data visualization, data cleaning. Is we're just going to explore, maybe see who are the 3 most popular YouTubers. What's the relationship between subscribers and video views or uploads, among other things. So I wanted to just show you guys like a quick visual. So here, this is like my rough work where I planned out the project, and as you can see, this is something called a pair plot. It's a bivariate. So I don't want to do it here because it took quite a while to run. I don't even know if I'm going to include it in the actual data visualization. I'll see, because it took quite a while to run. So it took all the numerical variables for our clean data set, and it's just trying to tell us a relationship. So like this one here is lowest monthly income has a very strong relationship with video views for the last 30 days. So you can see strong relationship, no relationship at all. So it just gives you a view, okay, what's going on? Okay, if I see this, I want to understand this better. So this is something called a pair plot, and this is just an example of a bivariate visual. And in the next video, we are going to look into exploratory data analysis. And as you've seen here, I've broken it into univariate, bivariate, multivariate analysis. We're going to talk more about what is exploratory analysis, what is univariate, what is bivariate, what is multivariate. But yeah, that's it for the video. Thank you so much for staying to the end. If there's any questions you have, you put them down there. Anything you'd want, any types of projects you'd want to see me do, put them down there. If you liked this, it was informative, like it, comment, yeah, subscribe. And for me, all of them, but most importantly, I'd really like to know like what you'd like to see. I want to give you more and more content that helps you. Me, I'm coming from a point of what I needed when I was starting, but I really want to know, what do you need as you're starting, as you're planning to upskill, among other things. Otherwise, that's it for this video. And yeah, thanks so much for making it to the end. See you in part 2. Bye.